On Wednesday, the federal government revealed the identities of 15 entities, which include 9 individuals and 6 bureau de change firms sanctioned over alleged terrorism financing. Kaduna-based publisher Tukur Mamu, who is currently being tried for allegedly aiding the terrorists who attacked the Abuja-Kaduna train in March 2022, is named on the list. Others are Yusuf Ghazali, Mohammed Sani, Abubakar Mohammed Salamuddin Hassan, Adamu Ishaq, Hassana Oyiza Isa, Abdul Karim Musa, and Umar Abdullahi. One individual is said to be the suspected attacker of a church in Owo, Ondo State, in 2022, and the Kuje Correctional Center here in Abuja.
Well, but Islamic cleric Sheikh Ahmed Gumi says that security agencies have no right to declare any Nigerian a terror financier. Joining us now, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Wahab Shittu, who's worked with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. He joins us from our Lagos studios. Good to see you, Wahab Shittu, and thanks, as always, for your time. Let's first of all make sense of that statement from the renowned cleric. Who best it is concerning what we're dealing with to announce or tag anyone as a terror sponsor?
Well, I think Sheikh Gumi is renowned in the public space, and he has interfaced severally on behalf of the government with perceived terrorists. And to that extent, whatever he says should be taken very seriously. But on this score, I would like to also disagree vehemently with his conclusions. Government will not have come out to label anyone as a terrorist financier without solid evidence, without solid intelligence, evidence. You will recall that this Boko Haram terrorism has been going on for a very, very long time, during which a lot of lives have been lost, a lot of casualties are recorded, and a lot of intelligence gathering efforts must have also taken place over the years. I don't see any responsible government coming out to name specific persons as financiers of terrorism without evidence. And so if there is evidence that anyone is financing terrorism, and that evidence is available to the security agencies, and on that score, they have come out to name them, I don't see anything wrong with that kind of, assertion. Government has a responsibility to safeguard lives and property. Government has a responsibility to combat terrorism. And part of that responsibility is to ensure that terrorist financing is reduced to the barest minimum, and all those who are involved in financing terrorism are publicly named and brought to book. But beyond naming them, as done in this case, I want to assume that government has a lot of evidence at its disposal before proceeding to name them. The government should go a step further by ensuring that those names are brought to book in terms of activating prosecutorial process, so that those people named are brought to book through the lawful judicial process. There's no way terrorism can be combated if we do not institutionalize a regime of consequences for criminal infractions. We know that terrorism is a heinous crime with a domestic and international dimension. And so all those who are involved, either in its execution or in its financing, must be seen as enemies of the state and dealt with according to law subject to observing the necessary requirements of rule of law in dealing with such elements. So I do not agree with Shegumi in saying that persons who have been named as terrorist financiers in consequence of solid intelligence gathering cannot be so labeled. We cannot continue to hide from the truth. Daily lives are lost. Daily casualties are recorded. Daily, the state of infrastructure is brought into manifest ridicule. Daily, there is a great threat, phenomenal threat to the survival of the Nigerian state as a result of these terrorist activities. And so government has a responsibility to ensure that all those behind these heinous crimes are named and shamed.
Right.
Hello?
Yes, indeed. And the other leg, senior advocate, the other leg of Gumi's assertion is that the federal government is simply looking, to give a dog a bad name in order to hang it. He says government is just looking for means to frame up its enemies by tagging them terrorism financing.
Well, government has pushed out its own narrative. If anyone disagrees with that narrative, of course, such persons are also entitled to enforce their fundamental rights through the machinery of the rule of law and the law courts. I don't see any responsible government shying away from addressing this intractable problem. Terrorism is capable of, jeopardizing the existence of the Nigerian state. It's not a problem that should be treated lightly. Anywhere in the world, forces are mobilized. Multifaceted forces are mobilized to ensure that terrorism is nipped in the bud. So what this current administration is doing ought to be supported, because government has a responsibility primarily to ensure that lives are secured, properties are secured, and that Nigerians carry out their businesses without any fear of molestation. Government has a responsibility to guarantee and deliver security to all and sundry, to provide an enabling environment that will ensure that will allow domestic and foreign investment to thrive, that will allow rights of all Nigerians to be respected, and that will also promote adherence to the rule of law. This is a responsibility that any decent government owes to the citizenry. So in carrying out such duties, although such duties, no attempt should be made to blackmail the government. I said before that government would not have come out to name specific individuals as financiers without solid evidence. So if those who are named feel that their rights have been trampled upon, of course you can approach the law court with contrary evidence. But as things stands now, it cannot be business as usual. Government has a responsibility to protect lives and property. And when we are talking of this security that we're talking about, we are talking of government has a responsibility to guarantee all-round security. Government has a responsibility to ensure, to tackle such threats as economic security, such threats on food security, threats on health security, threats on environmental security, threats on personal security, threats on community security, and threats on political security. Those 7 elements of human security, considerations, government has a duty to ensure, to even, address all the conditions that could give rise to terrorism, including terrorism financing. So I think what we should be concerned about at this stage is that how did the government arrive at those names?
Well, I think
there's no decent government
I'll let you land, but let me quickly throw in this because
solid evidence.
Yes, definitely, and this is what many have been asking. If you recall, just a few years ago, people were asking the government to name those who were caught in UAE and tried for the same terrorism offense. But if we go back to what Sheikh Gumi is saying, specifically, he says the AGF, only the AGF working with the Sanctions Committee will seek a judicial pronouncement. That's why I'm excited that you're here. And it takes us back to the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act. Speak to us, if you will, about some of the things he's mentioned. He's not saying that we can't talk about those that have been so mentioned. He's trying to talk about the legality that it shouldn't come from security agencies, going by the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act of 2022, that it must be from the AGF. So where is the AGF in all of this?
Well, if you read the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022 clearly, the AGF is given a central role to coordinate, all agencies, security agencies, and elements responsible for combating terrorism. But it's not only the AGF that is assigned that responsibility. We also have a terrorism, coordinating center recognized under the Act. And then the Act also recognizes the significant role of security agencies. Inspector General of Police, the Chief of Army Staff, and all the heads of security agencies have a significant role to play under the Terrorism Prevention Act 2021. It's a very comprehensive legislation that assigns roles not only to the AGF. There are other, even the judiciary, the police, and all of them are assigned roles under the Terrorism Prevention Act. Perhaps one of the best legislation in combating terrorism, because it's modeled after, best practices models. So I don't think it is correct for, say, Gumi to have asserted that it's only the Attorney General that has the right, to make such a pronouncement. The security agencies, we know that not only if we are talking of combating terrorism in Nigeria, we are not just talking of the Terrorism Prevention Act alone. The other security agencies, we have we have the Army Act, we have the Police Act, and we have other legislations too that impact on security. And these legislations also assign specific roles to various security agencies. Right. I think what we should interrogate is whether the narrative that is pushed out in the public space is right or wrong.
Very quickly, before we let you go, very quickly, the idea of terrorism masterminds feigning or pretending, for want of a better word, to be negotiators. Does it make nonsense of the idea of dialoguing with bandits and terrorists? Because it does seem, from all indication, that some of these, negotiators may, well, let's just say allegedly, be, terrorist supporters or financiers themselves.
Well, when you want to combat terrorism, I think it is fair to say that all options must be put on the table, including negotiation with the terrorists. Because we are talking of lives are involved here. A lot of sensitive infrastructure are also involved here. If there are elements who could interface with the terrorists and they are doing that in good faith, that should be encouraged. What government should not encourage is the idea of paying heavy ransoms to terrorists in order to deter them. What I think is important is for government, to have a policy, in place that will deter these terrorists. A punishment regime that will be severe, certain, and swift, in line with the principle of hedonism, which says that if there is punishment that is swift, that is certain, and that is severe, is likely to deter the commission of a crime. So if we have a regime of consequences for criminal infractions, the idea of negotiating with terrorists with a view to paying them heavy ransom consistently ought to be discouraged. But I'm not saying that we should not negotiate with them.
Right.
If that will allow them to.
Right. We'll have to say thank you so much for joining us. Wahab Shittu, EFCC Prosecutor and Senior Advocate of Nigeria. It's a delight to have you on Newsnight.